You're going to hear me often say a term that came up with years ago, and the central theme goes like this: spotting and identifying today's leaders and helping to build them for tomorrow's opportunities. Hi, my name is Vinnie Fisher, and I'm the founder of Beyond Your Shadow. And I created this discussion today around the idea of empowering today's leader and getting them activated now, to get them and build them up for tomorrow's opportunity. I want to help you, how I've identified those type of people in my career. And then I want to walk you through like a critical steps of not only how you identify, but inviting them into the journey. And this is a process. Multiplication is a subject that requires time. If things you really aspire to are having a really strong visionary culture, defending and building the DNA of that culture is critical. So building team from within instead of exporting team from outside the organization, typically in my career has proved to be better results. I want to say out from the beginning, it doesn't mean that outside development doesn't work. What it means is that you're going to work a little harder at DNA. I was just having a conversation with a friend last evening. We were talking about this big church and the history of its transition from a dynamic leader. And the board, the elders in this case, had the big dynamic leader was deciding to retire. And as part of that retirement, the board had to decide who, and along with this man, decide who was the successor, who was going to take over. And had a choice between this man in the organization who was like a 3.5 out of 5 stars at the time, or a 5-star already built up leader from the outside. And they really struggled with it. Well, they ultimately picked the 5-star outside. And it's sad to report today, a number of years later, that organization is a shell of itself. And it didn't work. And looking back, the leaders and the retiring leader and the board would say, we made the wrong decision. And why did they make the wrong decision? This is a perfect example of why I want to help you today with this subject about empowering today's leaders for tomorrow's opportunity. So what's the first point I want to help you with? It's spotting potential leaders within your team and how that is so much more valuable and going to lead to a longer cultural run and probably a better opportunity for the organization because, well, you're already, from a day-to-day standpoint, through the things you're doing, the tasks you're doing, you're empowering and you're building up and you're helping intuition of the way you do things. And so if you're a dynamic leader who has a lot of impact on different parts of your organization, that's going to naturally happen. And people on your team will start to do, act, and say certain things that fit within your terminology framework. This idea of being able to spot potential leaders on your team is a big deal. And so how do you do that? Well, I kind of have my own things that I do, and there's other resources out there in the marketplace that talk like this, but I look for certain skills and maybe even undeveloped skills in potential leaders. Now, I want to start here. I think that there are some people who just have some natural abilities of intuition and have a substantial advantage in the start of leadership than others. Just like I think athletic ability, there are some who have a greater athletic ability and others who have to work at it. Well, that's true in leadership, and I think that's fair to say. But there are also observations and untapped potential that are consistent across people. And so what do I look for? I look for certain things. One, I look for people who naturally take initiative. I look for people who support their colleagues. They want to help the team. I like people who take a keen interest in wanting to personally develop. I also love people who say they want to be in charge. They want, not because they want authority, but because they want to help lead and develop others. And so those things are so critical. I'm always looking for that among teammates, right? We normally would start out with hiring someone for a specific role, but I don't always just hire right into the leadership role because we're a multiplier organization. We kind of build up from within. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm always spotting potential for people. And so why is that so important? Is that story I told you earlier about team first philosophy. If you don't lead with that first, you're going to always be struggling with some convulsions in your culture. Outsiders, they're not doing something wrong. They're just doing it their own way. And so that example I gave you earlier about the church that brought in the outside 5 leader, people who were members of that church, people within your organization, it's like going to a different church the next day. It's like working for a different company, showing up at the same building, but a different organization because you have a different DNA. And so outside hiring works, but it's tricky. And so when we hire, we look at this idea, everything through the lens of the team philosophy. And so if leadership from within isn't one of your opportunities, and the next point is this idea of team first philosophy, the next piece in that is like, how do you hire effectively? And we use a matrix for that. We use effort, attitude, and ability. And back to the idea of take initiative and collaboration, team, like wanting to help and improve others, wanting to work on yourself. These are attributes that a leader will exhibit. And if you're interviewing such that you can extract information that would show someone wants those things, you start to at least lower your chances of an outside disruption as you bring someone in. I tend to like to hire within a younger process. And so because of that, not in age, but in opportunity. So we're always cultivating, and this is my 4th point, an apprentice type mindset. And so what does that mean? Because we're always working on building today's the potential of a leader and for tomorrow's opportunity, we're like inviting someone in. So remember how this whole thing started. Identifying people is this first point in here, spotting leaders. And I like to do it for inside. And if you have to do it outside, I like to use that hiring matrix. I'm always consumed with the culture and the team philosophy. Are we united? Are we empowered around a unified vision? Are we on mission together for that vision? Outsiders have been cultivated in another vision or another mission, and they want to come and implement that. They're not doing anything wrong. They're just implementing that into the organization. And that's where you can have this disruption. And so looking back to my example, the 3.5-star leader at the time was just undeveloped. And so had that organization have a more of an apprentice mindset, then I think the pastor in that leadership opportunity could have reconsidered deciding how to invest in the handoff of the leadership. So identify that person, they saw that person. And so the next step that we've learned and have done within our organizations and want to help you with is inviting that person in. Hey, I see these things, these qualities you have. I love that you do collaboration. I like that you think team first. I like that you're always wanting to improve in your skill, not only for yourself, but for others. Those are amazing attributes. So I want to really invite you in. I see you as a leader. I see you as a leader now, and I see with some support that you can be even in a bigger role of leadership in the future. And so that initial invitation is such a big deal in this process. It's like the validation that someone needs. And there's been so many studies done about that, this idea that people have been invited in to growth, how much longer they'll stay with the organization. And even better than that, recently a study was done that not only will that person stay longer in your organization, but other people on your team who see advancement opportunities as a result of promoting from within also will stay longer because they see a pathway to growth. And so it's a big deal when you have this kind of cultural mindset of team first inside. And so what do you do with an apprentice mindset when you invite them in? So here would be my tips. It's a journey. It's a leadership journey. So I think in this kind of framework, inviting someone into leadership, hey, we're going to have you do some things. I want you to come watch what I do. Next, along that leadership journey, hey, you've come a long way here. Why don't you start doing it with me? And we're still going to start, handing off and allowing some decisions to be made together. And then eventually it's going to get to a point where it's like, okay, teammate, you've done so well. Why don't you take this over and I'll watch you and be a mentor along the way and watch you do it. And then ultimately there's a point where you're just straight up handing it off and you're starting that process again. This is this multiplication mindset that takes place once you've invited someone into the journey. But I want to give you two big deal pieces here. This is point 5 and point 6 and point 7 of my kind of what I would do with this identify and invite people into the journey. And the first next point I want to drive home here is this on top of this apprenticeship mindset is it's a journey, a leadership development journey. You know, one of the things I did early in my career that I look back, I just did it too quickly and I watch people do this, is you quickly promote people by title into positions they're not ready for. What I've really done to help with that is this apprentice mindset. You start having them work in the role, but without the title, so that they can grow up and be under your watch me do it, let's do it together, and then eventually you start doing it phase of growth, and they'll have much greater opportunity to grow in there, and a little bit of safety, a little bit of protection, and the organization will support that growth instead of the one team member being potentially over-titled and shutting down from some things like imposter syndrome. So leadership development's a journey. It takes time, and the better you can use your words in describing that, then you know right up front in your mindset. And if you want to know more about the mindset of the leader in multiplication, go back to some videos we've shot on that here in our YouTube channel and other places, because we really drive home your mindset and where it starts. And here is where it kicks in a big deal here. Since this is a longer journey and a longer process, it's not going to immediately produce some of the results you want. But if you live in the results that are being produced now, you will ultimately, and probably even faster than you think, accomplish some development of leadership, depth, really build out depth among a leadership team. And so that leadership journey requires your time, the investment of your resources, and the investment of dollars. So time, talent, and treasure are necessary by the leader to invest and build other leaders. And so, you know, that's my next point is this idea of your time. You can't suddenly invite someone in and just hand it off to them and all of a sudden they do it. You know, I was a lifeguard when I was younger, and I remember when I would immediately try to find out if someone was ready or not. I took everyone into the pool, and the first thing I would do is have them blow bubbles. I would have them stick their face in the water, and the ones who did, I knew were immediately ready for something else. The ones that hesitated needed a little bit more maturation in the shallow part of the pool. And so I had everyone get out, and anyone who were ready and really dove in, the thing I would have them do is dive off the end into the deep area. I will say some of the moms were a little nervous about that. And of course, you know, I'd be in the water, and it wasn't like there weren't some safety elements of people around ready to do something, but this type of person was ready to take some adventure, some risk in the deeper part of the pool. And so with an apprentice mindset, some people will move along a little faster and they're ready for more authority, and you can take some risk with that. So you might be able to time collapse some of the time with some people, and the journey might be longer for other people. There's no kind of real set thing. I would measure risk and tolerance of ability to be able to hand off authority. And so with that, you know, they're going to make some decisions because that aren't always right. And, you know, we talk about this 70% rule, like, can you allow 70% of a decision that would be 70% valuable or right in the eyes of what you would make? And can you allow them to make the decisions at that level such that they have room to grow on their own through decisions that maybe lack some of the wisdom you have, and you take some risk and you learn through the criticism of improving decision-making authority? If really at the core, to develop leaders, you got to delegate and allow for authority and critical thinking to be just done at the next level. And so time investment is so big a deal. And I think of it intergenerationally. Are you investing time intergenerationally at the next level? And it's a really big deal. And so the final point I want to make on that is this idea of the long-term payoff. some of the things we do in the digital world is like things like search engine optimization or prospecting or building out things that take a while to develop your audience. Those are all things that take time. And building out a business, it takes time. Building out leaders, it takes time. Putting in the work every day in your way you eat, sleep, your physical exercise, building out a relationship. For me, my faith journey with the Lord and working out every day, our relationship, all of these things take time, but they have such a massive payoff. Do you have the end in mind? The idea of multiplication? Well, if you take these points and these principles we've discussed today about identifying people who are capable today of leading and helping them be ready for tomorrow's opportunity, invite them into that journey and take this process of leadership development, and you look at your time, your talent, and your treasure and how you're investing into these people, you will build out and continue to build out being a leader who builds leaders. So if you like this and you like the things we're talking about, I really invite you to engage more with our stuff. Like, we really are on a mission to help people understand multiplication and how multiplication truly leads to legacy. There are some amazing organizations out there, and you may have one of those. And the weight of the world's on your shoulders, and if you step away, things won't go well, and that's probably actually true. But it doesn't have to stay true, because what I've learned is that if you can actually diversify and add depth to your leadership team, you can take this pressure of being Atlas out of the equation, and an organization can be built beyond your shadow. I really hope this has been helpful. Share it, like it. We really want to help people, and so we'd love your engagement. We'd like any of your feedback, because we truly are on a mission to help legacy through multiplication.